And now, for more of A&E's Classroom.
Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Institution's National Air and Space Museum. Here, S. Dillon Ripley, Secretary of the Smithsonian, speaks at ceremonies marking the unveiling of a new postage stamp. It commemorates Charles Lindbergh's historic flight from New York to Paris in 1927 in the spirit of St. Louis. December 17th, 1903, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. On this day, at this place, Orville Wright makes aviation's first powered flight. He climbs into a fragile little plane that he and his brother Wilbur have built, opens the throttle of its 12-horsepower engine, and in 12 airborne seconds, changes the course of human history. After the Wright brothers come the Wrong brothers. To skeptics, aviation is not a science, just a joke. But serious progress is made. President Wilson is on hand in 1918 as the first airmail flight leaves Washington, D.C. for New York City. A year later, in 1919, the NC-4, one of a fleet of Navy flying boats under the direction of Lieutenant Commander Albert Reed, completes history's first transatlantic flight, New York to Plymouth, England, in 57 hours. Meantime, Charles Lindbergh has dropped out of college and is barnstorming the country in his own plane. More than just a daredevil, he is a dedicated pilot with an incredible feel for flying. Enlisting in the Army Air Corps, Lindbergh graduates first in his class. Later, he becomes a top airmail pilot, a hazardous job with a 75% fatality rate. Aviation is coming of age. In 1926, René Fonck of France assembles an international crew for a transatlantic flight. Waiting is the $25,000 prize offered by a French businessman for the first successful non-stop flight between New York and France. Overloaded with gasoline, the plane fights to take off. Seconds are like hours as rescuers try to reach the twisted wreckage before the fuel tanks explode. Fonck and his navigator escape. Two other crewmen do not. In this same year, Richard E. Byrd and his pilot Floyd Bennett announced plans for a trailblazing flight over the North Pole. Less than a quarter century after the Wright brothers first flew, Byrd and Bennett take off from the island of Spitsbergen, north of Norway, on a flight to the top of the world. 8.5 hours later, Byrd confirms the plane's position, 90 degrees north latitude, the North Pole. The return trip is uneventful. The Polar Pioneers complete their 1,700-mile flight. 1927, a new plane is under construction for a transatlantic attempt by 25-year-old Charles Lindbergh. But is there time? Two French flyers threaten to beat Lindbergh to his goal. On May 8th, Charles Nungesser and François Colly wave goodbye from their plane, nicknamed the White Bird, and take off from Paris for New York. They are never heard from again. Lindbergh's plane, called the Spirit of St. Louis, is built in 8 weeks at a cost of about $14,000.
On May 10th, pilot and plane take off from San Diego on the first leg of their rendezvous with destiny. is completed in record time. That kid Lindbergh, as newspapers call him, reaches New York alone. And that is how he will try for Paris, alone. The shy young airman becomes the favorite in the competition for the $25,000 transatlantic prize. Mrs. Lindbergh wishes her son Godspeed in what has become a three-way race with Admiral Byrd and Clarence Chamberlain. Days pass. Fog shrouds New York City. Storms rage across the Atlantic. May 20th, 1927. The Spirit of St. Louis is towed from its hangar. Word has come. The weather is clearing. Lindbergh's plan to fly the Atlantic alone is considered suicidal by many experts. But he wants that extra gas and will gamble on staying awake. Byrd offers the use of his private runway at Roosevelt Field. Paris is an ocean away, and yet Lindbergh will not even carry a parachute on his 3,600-mile flight. At takeoff, the Spirit of St. Louis, stripped of every luxury, is little more than a flying fuel tank. Lindbergh struggles to get his sturdy little plane off the rain-soaked runway. Finally, at 7:52 a.m., the aircraft lurches into flight. The Lone Eagle is on his way. WJC, New York. As Saturday dawned over the vast Atlantic, the Lindbergh plane is unreported since passing Newfoundland early last night. Around the world, peoples of many nations wait, hope, listen, and pray. Then... Ici Radio Paris. Un bateau pêcheur près de Cherbourg vient de nous informer que l'aéroplane de Lindbergh est arrivé à la côte de France à 3 heures de distance de Paris. Lowell Thomas broadcasts the news to America. He made it. Charles A. Lindbergh, Lucky Lindy as they call him, landed at Le Bourget Airport, Paris at 5:24 this afternoon, thus becoming the first person to fly New York to Paris non-stop. Flight time, 33 hours, 30 minutes. Paris goes wild over aviation's Yankee Doodle Dandy. Overnight, a legend is born, an idol created. Humorist Will Rogers says, "Every man that flies the ocean from now on will always be just an imitation of Lindbergh."
Lindbergh is overwhelmed. I could hardly have been more amazed, he declares, if I had landed on another planet instead of in Paris. Returning home, Lindbergh is greeted by one of the greatest outpourings of mass emotion in American history. President Coolidge leads the celebration.
And now, my fellow citizens, this young man has returned. He is here. He has brought his unsullied fame home. It is our great privilege to welcome back to his native land on behalf of his own people and as President of the United States. I bestow the Distinguished Flying Cross as a symbol of appreciation for what he is and what he has done upon Colonel Charles A. Lindbergh.
The ceremony is one of the earliest events recorded in sound by the motion picture camera. Lindbergh's first speech to his countrymen is just 106 words long. He out-Coolidges Coolidge.
During the week I spent in France, the day in Belgium, and the short period in London and England, at every gathering, at every meeting I attended, were the same words. You have seen the affection of the people of France for the people of America demonstrated to you. When you return to your country, take back with you this message from France and Europe to the United States of America. Thank you.
In New York City, 1,800 tons of ticker tape rained down on the welcoming parade for Lindbergh, prompting Mayor Jimmy Walker to say,
Colonel Lindbergh, New York is yours. I don't give it to you. You want it. And one other thing. Before you leave New York, you will have to provide us with a new street cleaning department to clean up the mess.
4 million men, women, and children pour into the streets to hail aviation's conquering hero. Observers call it New Year's Eve, Armistice Day, and a World Series championship all rolled up into one. Cities and towns, large and small, coast to coast, bestow awards, honors, medals on the shy young flyer with a winning smile. Aviation is and will continue to be Lindbergh's first love. He rejects a commercial offer for $1 million. This expedition, he replies, was not organized to make money, but to advance aviation. In time, the cheering will stop, the crowds will fade away, and personal heartbreak and public controversy will surround Charles Lindbergh, underscoring the words of F. Scott Fitzgerald, "Show me a hero, and I'll write you a tragedy." But his courage and skill in flying the Atlantic alone in 1927 have ensured aviation immortality for the lone eagle, Charles Augustus Lindbergh.
This concludes today's presentation of A&E Classroom. Thank you for watching. Please join us again on the next A&E Classroom.
The preceding program is part of Cable in the Classroom, a service of the cable television industry and your local cable company.